really the point of spirituality is to break out of the box that we have placed ourselves in, which is, this is my body and this is my aura, and these are my chakras, and this is all me, and I'm this tiny little piece of being somewhere in the universe.
Right. That's hard to break out.
Yeah. So all of our practices that we do in satsang are designed to break us out of that belief of the boundary. Every single practice that we do here. So the more that our mind softens and quiets, the less we feel our boundaries. Then it's even hard to say, oh, I'm a being of light. Because we can't even feel who we are. I mean, we just feel kind of boundless. And that's a good state to be in, to keep striving towards that state. And why? Why is that valuable? Even from a practical standpoint. Because the source of all of our suffering is based in, I am this little person. Because once we have narrowed ourselves down into just this little thing, then now the whole universe is going to give us trouble, is poking at us and is attacking us or making things difficult. So if my identity is that small, then I get poked and I get hurt. And when I feel endless and infinite, then, the body and the mind may be poked, but I, myself, as the infinite, am in a way kind of untouched. I'm free of the suffering of the personal being. And that's a whole different realm. And then the sort of, you could say the final stage of spirituality is reaching the divine, which is just one infinite consciousness, and there is only me, and I am that. So there is a reason why I light a candle for Swami Purna. Someone asked me about that also. Well, why do you give flowers to Swami Purna, and what's that for, and why do you give a candle, and why do you make an altar and all? So consider this. There are few beings, very, very few beings, that actually descend onto earth and are in the consciousness that I just spoke about, which is infinite. Few beings, very few, who are truly embodying that state. Completely out of the Maya, completely out of any of the suffering of the mind and the body and all that. Above and beyond. Very few. And Swami Purna represents that ultimate state. So, when you light a candle for the picture, what you're doing is, number one, is you're honoring the infinite, right? Because the picture symbolizes infinity. And then secondly, is like the candle is like an offering of the flame of our heart. So every time you offer something to the picture of a great saint, that part of you can get cleansed. So if the flame represents the spiritual flame of your heart and you're giving it to the picture, now this clearing starts to happen in your heart. And you feel it. It's an offering. And that's why then flowers represent the devotion and love. So I have devotion and love for that being that is showing me the way to the infinite. Because that's a rare thing. That is an extraordinary gift that ultimately each person, each soul will seek out. They will seek out a guide to lead them across the ocean of their own suffering. That guide one could call as a guru. Some people don't like that word as a guru. I don't know, you could call it an angel, you could call it a spiritual guide, you could call it a spiritual teacher, you could call it a master, whatever it is. Gurus sometimes have a bad rap, bad name, as we all know, because of that. So, don't mind the name. And so then I would say then the next question is, well, how do you know if it's an infinite being? I mean, let's put it this way. The true guru will know how to show you what he or she is. You know this, right? They'll send you a signal to your brain, to your consciousness, some sort of signal. They'll light something up inside you that is undeniable. And you will say inside, this is real.
This is real.
This is no joke. This
Yeah.
is like something that is so beyond what I could have ever thought was possible. Now let me find out more about this teacher, and let me ask them for some advice or guidance on how to find the infinite, because clearly something's happening here. So this becomes like the presiding presence in satsang, almost like creating a bubble here, in which all you have to do is open to the energy and feel it. And bit by bit, your consciousness starts to shift and become like that. Now, the only question is, and I was asking this, I think someone, I don't remember exactly who I said this to, but how many people do you know who are searching to dissolve their little self and merge with infinity? Do you know anyone? I joke about this, like, do you talk to anyone on the phone about how to dissolve yourself into infinity? Does anyone talk about that? Right? It's mundane conversations that we have on the phone all the time, normal conversations. But you might find that as you become a more serious spiritual seeker, that you will have spiritual friends that are all interested in the same thing. And they're asking the same questions. Who am I? What is infinity? What is this universe all about? And where did it come from? And how can I find the secrets of the universe? Right? You get those kind of friends when you start to get deep into spirituality. And then your discussions will all be satsang over the phone or in gatherings or at your parties or whatever. People, because they're all like-minded. They're all striving to find the same thing. They want to find the truth of their being. And so what is it that defines what I would call a successful spiritual seeker? Well, Ramakrishna, if you know the story about Ramakrishna, a great saint who lived in India, late 1800s. His disciple was Swami Vivekananda, who was also a great saint as well. And Vivekananda asks this question, like, what is it like to have that kind of intensity to want so-called God, to want the realization of the self? What do you need? What kind of desire do you need to really get there? What is that intensity all about? And then Ramakrishna says, nothing. I mean, Ramakrishna doesn't even respond to him, right? So the next day, the two of them are walking along the river. I think it was like the Ganges River. I can't remember which river it was, but they're walking along the river together. Suddenly, Ramakrishna pushes Vivekananda into the river, and then Vivekananda has trouble swimming. He was younger at that time, and he was having trouble swimming, and then Ramakrishna came and pushed his head down into the water and held him down, right? And so Vivekananda was struggling, and because he was losing breath, he couldn't breathe, and he felt himself dying, and his guru kept holding him down, and then finally Ramakrishna let him go and pulled him out of the water. And then he's gasping for air, and Vivekananda is lying on the ground like this. And then Vivekananda said to Ramakrishna, "Are you crazy? How can you be a spiritual guru? You just tried to kill me." And Ramakrishna says, "Wait a moment. stop. He said, tell me, how did you feel under the water there? How did you feel? What was your experience? He said, I was desperate for breath. I was doing anything I could to scramble to get to even take just one breath.
That's how you have to be a seeker.
And he said, that's the answer to your question of what kind of desire or intensity do you need in order to find God. And so you will find that the really powerful spiritual seekers are always thinking about God, because this is the real quest of life. It's not to become successful materially in this world. It's to find out the truth. And some people don't really know that, and some people would debate with me about that. That's fine, but at some lifetime they will discover what the most important thing is, which is finding my source. Where did I come from? To go back to where I came from. And each person will develop that intensity, but usually it takes lifetime after lifetime of churning through the difficulties of life before finally they come to that conclusion, like, I need God like I need air.